you have a blind spot, you have shadows, you need to go work with that, not as a shame or a criticism, but because she can feel the king in there.
Hi everyone, I'm Kirsten Davidson, your host and creator of my wellness podcast, Mind the Gaps, where we work on surrendering our typical ways of looking at life to step out of our comfort zone and into our growth zone. Welcome to episode number 29, Crowning the King Within, where I'm joined by relationship coach Mike Elliott. Today's guest is someone who works with high-achieving men who've built outward success, but are quietly struggling in their most important relationships, especially the ones they have with themselves. He helps men who are ready to stop performing and start doing the deeper emotional work, so they can show up fully in their lives, their partnerships, and their purpose. His approach isn't therapy, and it's not traditional coaching either. It's more of what he calls an initiation. He guides men through the kind of transformation that doesn't just change how they lead, but who they are when they're alone, when no one's watching. If you've ever felt the pressure to hold it all together while something inside you feels off, you'll want to lean into this one. Together, Mike and I explore redefining masculinity through vulnerability, inner child work, and the archetypes of the lover, warrior, magician, and king. Mike shares how balancing masculine and feminine energies can deepen relationships and foster authentic connection, a win-win for the man, the woman, and their partnership. This one's for the men and the mothers, daughters, and partners walking alongside them. I'm excited to bring you along for this journey of evolving masculinity and showing up fully in life and in love. For all things Mind the Gaps, you can find me on Instagram at kirsten.davidson, in addition to my new website, mindthegaps.co. If you like what you hear today, taking a moment to rate and review the podcast episode is always greatly appreciated. We couldn't do this without your support, so thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy. Hi, Mike. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Yeah, I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for having me on, Kirsten.
We were just chatting about your title and use the word evolutionary relationship coach. Can you share with us what you mean when you say evolutionary?
Yeah, for me, evolutionary means ultimately, in the simplest form, is the process of awakening. Awakening into a more mature, embodied version of self. And so what I've experienced is there's so many different forms of relationship coaches, and relational work can sometimes be seen as just relationship skills. And what I found is in the work that I do so much. There's so much in there. It's like connecting to the soul, like really getting aligned with these like God-given unique gifts. We're doing trauma healing or doing attachment theories or doing, there's so many pieces. And so when I was feeling into it, it's like, evolutionary relationship, I believe, is this new form of relationship on the planet where the key indicator of it is radical self-responsibility. How am I as a person impacting the people in my world? Like when I'm relating with another human, what about me is creating impact? And for me, I notice the more awareness there is around that, for me, that is a new evolutionary way of being human. It's instead of projecting all these things about others, it's like, no, I'm going to own my reality. I'm also going to own what I'm impacting when I move through the world.
I like that a lot. I like that view that it's focusing on introspection, so you're able to bring forth a better, more evolved version of yourself, like that higher self we talk about, into relationships rather than feeling like everything's happening to you and you need to, or not you need to, but you end up being this passive recipient rather than, no, I'm going to be an active participant in these relationships.
Yeah, that's right. It's ultimately, for me, the evolutionary piece is seeing that this phrase that comes from a lot of indigenous cultures of all my relations. It really makes me think of, I'm in relationship with my body. I'm in relationship with that, the voice in my head, the ego. I'm in relationship with my children, my partner, the land, my dharma, like my purpose. And it's, for me, it's that. It's like, instead of just this one-to-one partnership, or it's like looking at the bigger picture of how am I relating with life itself.
Life coach redefined, essentially, looking at how you're not just, you can't just look at how you show up in relationships in isolation of how you show up to your life, basically, and to yourself.
That's right.
I've seen that you work with men who seem to quote unquote have it all: success, status, leadership. But what do you see is really going on beneath the surface for so many of them, and why is it that they come to you?
Yeah, so many, and I've been in this realm in my own version, in a smaller version compared to the clients that I end up serving, but where, others from the outside would probably think that I have it all, have my own house, have a beautiful wife, have a job that, makes close to $200,000 a year, have a really big, strong body, like it, checks all the boxes, but I was miserable inside. And so the men that I end up attracting and working with, even farther, more steps down the road of creating external success, well-established business that's creating big impact in the world, have millions of dollars, they're married, they've got all the things. And from the outside, everyone thinks, wow, I want to live your life. You have everything. But what I found is having a connection to them, realizing inside they feel like the most common themes here are, I feel broken. I'm exhausted. I feel so alone. What's wrong with me? Like, everyone thinks I have it all. And I'm asked to give perspective and share and support everyone else. And I'm just a disaster inside, like help. And why people come to me, I'd say, the feedback of what men generally end up sharing is, when I'm watching you on stage or when I'm seeing your videos on Instagram, there's something that you have figured out. Like, I can tell when I just feel how I feel when you're sharing is, you feel safe, you seem happy, you have a beautiful relationship. I can tell when I listen to you and Courtney's podcast, like, you guys are, the way you speak to each other, I can see and feel that there's love there. How are you doing that? So men will generally follow me for a while, and then we're like, that looks like success. I'm curious, how is he doing that? And then, we generally hop on a call, and then within, 10 to 20 minutes, they feel the safest they've ever felt. And all of a sudden are starting to feel a bunch. Wow. And the process of them actually feeling seen, heard, and understood helps them understand, I don't know why, but this guy can help me. Like, help me heal, help me, meet and satisfy my partner, help me, do this business that I'm doing, but in a way where it actually feels fulfilling and good, not exhausting.
Yeah. So they're seeing in you what they'd like to see in themselves, and the irony of that, because the people that watch them are probably looking at them saying, I want that. And they're feeling this void. So they're looking at you and saying, I want what you have. Right. And the trail goes on. Right. And so for you to be so vulnerable, that's the distinction between, people on the outside looking at success, like quote unquote success, monetary, status, that type of thing. We don't know really what's going on mentally, emotionally, but the way you market yourself and the way you show up online is very genuine and true to who you are, based on what I know about you. And so that makes sense why there's a different type of longing for that true contentment, not the next shiny thing.
Yeah. And there's a woo-woo part in here. For some people might think this is woo-woo, but my forever prayer and intention in what I know is my purpose here is to serve. It started as just serving men and women, just serving humanity to feel safer so that they can do the deeper healing. And I really started my career of serving mainly women who just haven't felt safe with men. I would attract, and then we would work in these containers, and, the most common feedback there is like, oh, you have this dad energy. And so it helps like heal the dad wound of actually having a man safe, holding space, reassuring them, going back and like what I call is like scooping up the little girl and helping her integrate into an adult body. That's how it started. And it's evolved into supporting men so that they know how to also do what I'm doing. Like, how do you become a safe man actually in an embodied way? How do you do that for your employees, for your partner, for your kids? And so I digress. My forever intention is prayer is like, bring the men to me that I can help and support. And the more I live that prayer, it ends up being what I attract, because that's what I am here for. I've been in men's work for, 10 years now, and it's completely changed my life. It's helped me, I still have so much to evolve and mature and grow up. Like, my work never stops, but I've matured a lot from being a part of men's work for 10 years. And that is, I'd say, on the woo-woo part, the essence of what they're feeling is a man who has supported himself and been supported for a decade. And that is rare in a lot of places. And for a lot of men, and so when they feel that, and that's usually what they say, like, I don't know why I'm here, but I feel so safe with you. I don't know why I'm saying this thing. I've never shared this part of me, but I know you can meet it. It's like, yeah, well, that's because, I've been just a puddle in front of other men and practiced how to do that. So it's so easy to love men when they're places they've been hiding and repressing for their whole life. It's so easy to make space for that to be loved, because I've had it happen for me.
Yeah. I like how you're saying you've been a puddle in front of men, because that totally ties into the main theme of this episode, right? Which is looking at how men in general can shed this armor, this emotional armor, to show up more vulnerably, more authentic. And when you use the term puddle, to me, that is just vulnerable, to be so flowing movement. I mean, getting into the whole metaphor of water there, just being able to be open and not rigid. How would you describe, when I say the word emotional armor, how would you describe the definition of that in your work?
Yeah, the emotional armor, on from the embodied sense of things, I would say places where in the nervous system, men are frozen and shut down. There's so much collapse in their body, and they're so numbed out that they don't have access to their heart and their actual feelings. So it's just this defense mechanism preventing them from feeling, because this is just every time the case. Back when they were little and they were really sensitive, feeling lots, it wasn't safe. They wasn't held well. They were shamed. They were criticized. And so it creates, what I call, and I get this from Terry Real, one of my mentors, it creates an adaptive child tendency. So it's this little boy part that learns, wow, I can't be my vulnerable self here. I can't share my feelings. I can't have tender needs. So I need to grow up. Like, the nervous system just decides it has to be an adult too soon. And then so what the nervous system has to do, the attachment system has to do, is it has to freeze. It has to be like, we can't, this part of us that's trying to develop, we're just going to stay here and we're going to numb this out, and we're not going to come back online because this is dangerous. And then if safety comes in at some point, that part can continue its process to develop and mature and grow up.
And how do you help men shed that armor so that they can move towards, we'll say, growing up in a way that looks different from what their childlike version thought growing up would look like? Meaning, when they're younger, maybe growing up looks like stiff upper lip, be a man, right? Like, don't show your feelings. How do you help them kind of move away from that?
The number one piece is safety, helping them feel safe. And, in my role, in my seat, what I'm doing is I'm actually attuning to them. I'm actually getting to know and be curious about what is happening in their world that hasn't been seen, hasn't been acknowledged. And if I can see that and hold space for that and create safety, the nervous system just will start to mobilize and it will start to feel. And, just through the medium of my work, I guide through questions. We guide through certain practices to help unlock the part that's frozen. So we'll do somatic work to get to the place where that piece is collapsed or frozen, and help bring awareness to it. And when there's awareness to it with connection, this is the big piece. If I can help that man notice that I'm here and also notice that there's a part of them that's frozen, the nervous system will start to be like, someone's tracking me, helping me go into a part of myself I didn't even know was happening. The nervous system just goes, oh, we're safe. And then energy starts to mobilize.
So it's the awareness of the stuck part and the awareness of a safe presence witnessing that stuck part.
Yeah. Because so much of those defensive strategies, that guarded, armored, masculine, they are feeling a lot in certain places, but the guarding is pushing connection away. So whenever there's something that's triggering or they start to feel something more vulnerable, there's the parts that are frozen and numb, but there's also parts that are still feeling. This is that's why there's armor, is they can feel things, but it's safer to just like create separation and isolation and push away and make everything about the other. One of the most common things that I see and hear from men is, oh God, my wife is her feelings are so much. They're too much. She's so emotional. She needs too much. And it's like, no, you're needing a lot. You didn't get your needs met. And so now that feels like inundation and attack, and it's not. Like there's a lack of emotional integration. And so if they can start to feel safe and be guided into it's okay to feel your feelings and be reassured and and guided in that process, they start to build resilience. They start to build capacity.
And what else do you start to see happening for them? Like, what are some of the biggest shifts you see as they finally do that inner work and they're not only chasing the external success?
One of the most satisfying things to witness in men is once they start, and it's such a big terrain of, what happens in the work, but the essence of it is safety. Once they feel safe, they get a felt sense and understanding of that they have a little boy inside. Once we learn how to have that met, because that's happening, that makes them safer. If they understand there's a young, underdeveloped part inside of them, a little boy that's driving the bus, and they're being supported by another man, that helps them become safer. So then what ends up changing is their partner feels safer with them because their partner can feel that there's a little boy online. That's why they're pissed. That's why they're big emotions where they're like not feeling safe, not feeling provided for. That is like what I call the oracle in the feminine saying, you have a blind spot. You have shadows. You need to go work with that, not as a shame or a criticism, but because she can feel the king in there. She's trying to wake the man up to the king, the more mature, evolved leader that he's meant to be. And so all those big emotions are trying to call out the places that aren't that. And so one of the coolest shifts that I see, and, one of the most recent ones is within 2 sessions, watching a man or hearing a man come back with this feedback of, I don't know why I did this, but I had my partner, I invited her to just like lay her head on my chest and I just like held her and she started crying and I started crying and I started to have memories of when I was a little boy and I was sharing that with her and she was starting to share experiences when she was a little girl and her expressing like, this is the first time I have felt like emotionally met by you. And, in this situation after, over 2 decades of being together.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. 2 decades and to have that breakthrough in 2 sessions.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That is,
and that gives me chills. That's what I live for, is get to feel other men having the experience of them being received for what they're offering
Mm-hmm.
And for the feminine, and it's not always the feminine. I'm just saying more the feminine energy. It's not gender specific, but where that feminine energy can receive what's being provided and that's safe, and
Mm-hmm.
to then start to open and blossom, because that's what will happen is when there is actual safety and the guarding goes away, the armor drops. That's intimacy. That's where then these parts that have been wanting to be held can be. And for me, there's no sweeter victory than actually feeling connection.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the beauty of this man in your story being able to hold space for his partner allowed him to open up himself, right? So to have both of those things happening at the same time, right? That must have been such a magnificent experience for him of, wow, I can hold space, and then she holds space for me, and then we're both holding space for each other at the same time. And it doesn't always look like that, right? Like sometimes it's more one, sometimes it's more the other, but in those like synergist moments, that's just amazing.
Yeah. And this ties back to the piece of, when we asked about the evolutionary piece of the evolutionary relationship, what I found is this is the part that's evolutionary, is more of the time it gets to be on both sides,
Mm-hmm.
where there is such a felt sense of reciprocity that, whoa, wait, me being vulnerable and in my heart leads to me feeling more met and loved and connected.
Mm-hmm.
And so are they. Like, what?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's the part that even I'll have some men, send me audio messages being like, how? Like, what is happening? Like, what is happening? I'm having insights and breakthroughs and these like spiritual experiences, but I'm feeling more met by my partner in this part of, because what can happen is if they're not feeling met, they search and they wonder. This is where men go into pornography and addiction and,
Mm-hmm.
thinking in their, that voice in their head has them believe that they're attracted to other women. But when they actually get met and experience their partner being met, it's just this really beautiful reciprocal dance where, wow, we both feel better.
Yeah.
That's evolutionary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What would you say to the man who thinks that he's protecting his partner by shielding them? I put quotations for those who can't see, by shielding them from their own sadness.
Well, the first thing I would say to them is, I'm so sorry you got the message growing up that it's not okay to feel your feelings.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so sorry that it wasn't safe to be all of you growing up.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. And then that usually brings up a lot of emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Mm-hmm.
they start to feel that that's true.
Yeah.
And then it just helps them wake up to, oh, this feels so good to feel and to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's what my partner's begging for, is
Mm-hmm.
like, let me do that.
Yeah.
Let me do the process that they're experiencing in that moment. Let your partner see you, all of you, and how
Mm-hmm.
sweet that is for them. The thing that I'd say there to men is, your partner, man, woman, they want to see you so bad. They want to feel you so bad. And if they can actually be let into what's inside of there, they will melt. That's what they're longing for. That's what they're frustrated about. If your partner is frustrated and pissed and nagging, and if it feels like nagging, it's because they're saying, let me in.
Mm-hmm.
Let me into your heart. Let me feel you. They have so much to give.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much they want to offer, but if they're not let in, they can't. And then that's so infuriating, because it's not honoring right relationship. It's not honoring nature.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the confusion they must feel in those moments of vulnerability, like you're saying, they're able to be open. They're not being met with pushback. They're actually being met with love, more love probably than when they thought they were protecting their partner, and drawing attention like you're doing to the partner feeling left out essentially of their mind. Like, you want to be able to understand the inner workings of your partner's mind, but you can't do that if they don't understand their inner workings.
Yeah, that's right. One of the,
Mhm.
you nailed it there. One of the deepest human needs is to be seen and understood, like seen, heard, and understood. That's how we
Mhm.
feel that we're here in a body and that we're okay. If someone can see, hear, and feel us, this is how we develop. This is where we're interdependent. When we're
Mhm.
little ones, we're dependent. We are actually dependent and needing those ingredients. If we get them, we then evolve into, right, everyone needs that. Everyone needs to feel some sort of sacred mirror. We call it the sacred mirror of
Mm.
you are here. And this is what I'm experiencing from you. And
Mhm.
it's one of the sweetest gifts. And like partners are just longing to feel that part because, if we look at it, being in long-term partnership, that's not how we were built and designed. When we look at the animal part, like primally, it was just to procreate. So it's like really short-term connections. That's why our hormones usually last about a year and a half. And it's like, it just says procreate. And then those
Mhm.
wear off. And then the long-term part it's hard work. It requires like actual chosen actions to love each other. And,
Mhm.
partners are just longing for the intimacy, that sweetness they felt in the beginning. They want to feel that. They want to feel alive. They want to feel met. They want to go deeper. You know, I know
Mhm.
this is true for me, and it's not just with my partner, all my inner circle. Like I want to get to know you so deeply, and then
Mhm.
I'm going to let you in and, let you know me so deeply. That's what helps us feel that deep felt sense of belonging.
Mhm.
So those men that are listening that are so used to just creating so much external monetary success, God, being met in partnership is the most fulfilling felt sense of accomplishment. If
Mhm.
we can feel like we're in life, we're loved, we matter, then all of that external success actually gets to be enjoyed instead of it being some mechanism to try to prove from that little boy place that we're lovable.
Absolutely. As you're saying all that, I'm reflecting on how it's messages from men that reinforce those beliefs, but it's also messages from some women, right? That there's lots of focus on the financial success, monetary success, like really not caring about the inner success. And I would say from my experience, that seems to be in women who are also disconnected from their inner truth.
Definitely. Yeah, it's so
Mhm.
attuned in a big way. Because if there's that part that, and this is how I've noticed it with the years of supporting women so consistently, is if they've had to become the inner protector and what I call the inner father and the inner husband, if they have to do the providing of the safety, they're disconnected from that free flowing juicy feminine.
Mhm.
And it does create this, it can create a confusion in the mind of, I want more money, I want you to provide me these experiences. But what their body and nervous system's ultimately saying is, I want to feel safe in here.
Mhm.
I want to feel safe so that you know you can even get connected to that juicy feminine part that is this ever flowing desire. Because this is
Mhm.
what I find is, like, when women actually do get what they want, more flowing desire comes online. Well, now I want this and now I want that, and let's have more babies and let's go over here. And it's like, yeah, great. That's the part of, like, I know that part in me, that feminine part that wants to taste life, wants it to be growing and evolving and
Mhm.
changing and be an adventure. But if women haven't felt safe or met, yeah, it creates a distortion in the mind. They're like living in their head, their parts that are frozen and shut down think, I need to have success. I'm going to create it for myself. And if a man comes in here, I'm going to tear him to shreds if he's not giving me that success, like the tangibles. Like, where are the deliverables? But
Yeah.
really, they're needing to feel safe so they can go into those vulnerable, tender parts.
And as you talk about the masculine and feminine energies and parts of everyone, I'm curious what your approach is to nurturing both the masculine and the feminine energies within men, because it seems like your work is primarily with men and women in general. I think when we talk about energies, masculine and feminine, it can be foreign to some. It was foreign to me at one point that, oh, we have both of these energies within us. Like I thought it was only feminine energy. Like I never thought of myself as having masculine energy. And this was a while back, but I just remember when I learned that, that changed the way I was viewing myself and other people. So I'd love to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah, this is where nature is such a beautiful teacher for this. I feel that in life and how it's just like how it presents is like feminine energy is like the river. It's this free flowing, can't control it, can't contain it. It will move over. You know, if there's an obstacle, it'll build up energy and move over it. It'll work its way around. You know, just imagining, you know, rivers when you look at like Google Maps overview. Like that's how I like to look at feminine energy. It's meant to move. It's meant to flow. It's meant to be unpredictable and mysterious, but it like awe striking. Like if anyone's gone scuba diving or been on the ocean, it invokes presence. It's powerful. It's strong. It evokes every range of emotion, you know, in its stillness, but in its rocky waters. Like that's the feminine. The masculine's the banks. The masculine are the banks that can hold and guide that energy. It's the part that can feel it is solid, it's stable, it's consistent, it's safe, but somewhat flexible. Like it'll move and it'll guide that energy into something that's really helpful for everyone.
I love that metaphor. And when you're talking about the masculine being the banks, I see, and I think a lot of women could attest to this and men too, a lot of men not having experienced the confidence from supporting a woman, like by supporting a woman and by helping and guiding and being that, you know, shoulder, chest to cry on. And what would you say to those men who haven't even tapped into that yet, to that amazing feeling of being that guide?
Yeah. Well, the first thing is most likely the voice in the head has them convinced that they have been offering over all the right ingredients to do that.
Okay.
And they may actually be in this convinced belief like, well, I've done that and I've held space and I have listened and they're just not receiving it. And so for the men that feel that they've been doing it, but it's just not happening, I'd say to them, first of all, if it's not being received and that's the consistent like report card and feedback and it's with many women, it is something in your body and it's most likely a little boy's online. And this is what I call nice guy syndrome. Nice guy syndrome's online and you think you're doing it from your head, you are doing it, but it's not embodied. They don't feel safe. They don't feel seen. They're not feeling that part that can actually melt. And for the men that are listening, they just haven't even tried to have that experience. It's one of the most pleasurable experiences to have, and cultivating the ingredients to actually be a safe space to have the feminine melt is the thing that will bring you closer to your mission, will bring you closer to your purpose. You know, there's a lot of men seeking like, what's my purpose? Like they have, you know, some are trying to get to success. Some have lots of success and they're confused because they're like, I have millions of dollars and I'm still not clear on what my purpose is. It's like, well, once you really start to meet other people and guide and lead well with the unique gifts that you've been given, it will feel so good inside. And so for the men that haven't experienced that, to help your mind understand, it's usually because a little boy is dressed up in man's clothing and you are living your life that way and you don't even realize it. There's no shame in this. You're not bad. You're not wrong. This is the impact and the byproduct of not being emotionally in tune with while you were developing as a little guy. And if you can get met in those places, that just leads to healing. And when you heal and you mature and you can offer these ingredients to the feminine and have it received, it will initiate so many things inside it initiates, like for me, what I notice is Courtney's my partner. And when she meets this part of me where I can actually hold space, it initiates something inside where I develop into becoming more man. I somehow get some, like, I get access to new information that I didn't have before in my body, in the cells of my being, and in, you know, in insights in my mind that I then get to go and like penetrate life with. Like, oh, wow, this is what women need. Like, because I don't know. I don't know what women need unless I can meet them in the way and they can say, I feel so met. Great. Tell me more of how you feel safe. And if I cultivate these ingredients, I get to bring this to my business, my team members, my son, to the land. It helps me be a way more attractive, confident, empowered man. So it's kind of breaking the conditioning that can happen of, oh, you're weak if you're vulnerable, you're weak if you hold space, or the, you know, the feminine. There's so much narrative in there of that's your shit. You go get help there. That's yours. No. When we do this together, it actually leads to that part that so men are wanting is, I want to be more man. I want to be the alpha. I want to, you know, create this empire and kingdom. The way through it is actually learning the ingredients to be a safer man in the world and have that received.
And when they're having it be received, or they're being more vulnerable, would you say that's them then tapping into the flowy water part of themselves, the feminine part of themselves, when they're able to ask their partner to meet them when they are needing help?
Yeah, the language that I use here, so the vulnerable flowy part, and this comes from Robert Moore and Douglas Gillette's work, The King Within, and it's a foundation from a lot of the men's work that I've done over the last decade. The feely, emotional, vulnerable part is lover energy. And when we satisfy the lover inside, every man has a lover inside. And I'll just quickly describe the archetypes. So there's lover, there's warrior, there's magician, and there's king energy. And as men, and I really feel this in my truth, my lived experience, and with the men that I've supported, if we get to know each of those qualities inside of us and nurture them, if we get contact with that lover part of us, we can be vulnerable, we can welcome vulnerability and create emotional intimacy. It invokes those other energies. It invokes that king energy that so men are, that's the one they want to live in predominantly. Like, just, I want to be the king. And this is a lot of the men that I end up attracting. It's like, you are the king. Holy, look at, like, even 10 times more success than I got financially. You know, they've got big business and leading team members and, you know, driving hot sports cars. Great. You rocked king energy on a level, but it's not a fully integrated king because the lever's not online. So it's not true safety. It's actually creating more destruction because it's not emotionally and relationally attuning. Like, how are your customers feeling? How are your team members feeling? Often not good.
Right.
But once the lover comes online, it helps that part of us actually feel like a king. Like, wow, I'm safe. The feedback I'm getting is people want to be close to me, want to be around me. Like, that's what men are ultimately wanting. I want to be in my power, but also be safe and welcomed and celebrated. Yeah, that feels really good. And the only way to get to that lived experience is bringing that feminine part online, the lover.
And the other archetypes, I'm so curious now. Can you tell us about those?
Yeah. So this is like short, condensed version.
Sure.
The lover energy is it's the vulnerability, it's the softness, it's the gentleness, it's going into feelings. Then we got warrior energy. Warrior energy is this part of us that has clarity, or is on the mission to creating clarity of purpose. Like, I'm going to take the uniqueness of who I am and I'm going to bring that to the world, which means I'm going to learn how to cultivate accountability. I'm going to learn how to take responsibility for myself and how I guide my day and my energy and self-care. I'm going to lead well. I'm going to be the warrior of my own life and learn containment and not just follow all the shiny objects, like that little boy energy that is like, yeah, I just want to be free. And I don't want any adult responsibilities. The warrior energy is the part of us that grows up, part of us that can, language here is get shit done. Part of us that can also stand up to other men and call them up into the king and the man they're meant to be. It's like say the uncomfortable things. That's warrior energy. Magician is this part of us that welcomes and embodies the practices of transformation. The part of us that wants to change, that will do the work to change. So in there's like inner child healing, there's shadow work. It's getting to know the parts of us that we all have that are a bit gnarly, the parts of us that are wounded, the parts of us that make us a human being, that make us imperfect. Like getting to know, where does that come from? Where are the patterns in my life that aren't really leading to more health and well-being? Doing deep work to change that, to get to know, to scoop up. The language I love here is like scooping up the little parts that are stuck way back there, and they're unconsciously wanting life to take care of them. That's not really helpful or healthy for an adult reality.
Yeah.
The magician energy is doing the processes of that work. That's where generational healing lives. That's, where the trauma healing happens. And then king energy is this part of us that when all of those are being exercised and practiced in day-to-day living, it's the part of us that is safe and secure in an embodied way. It's this part of us that is cultivating a kingdom, confident in his own seat, and is attuning and listening to the kingdom. This is like in an inner, like in a home structure and community. It's the part of us like, yeah, let me know how you feel. And I'm going to bring my power. I'm going to bring my potency to help everyone have a more enjoyable time here. But I'm also going to be so clear in what I need. What's the reality I want to be living. I'm going to do that. I'm going to inspire others by having sacred no's, by knowing what my yeses are, being so clear in who I am that I'm just going to lead my own life, but then give, like the people that I'm meant to give to in my kingdom through these castle walls, whoever I'm meant to attract. Yeah, I'm going to give from my bounty. I'm going to give from generosity, and let's celebrate together. The image that I love here is like this big, like kitchen table, just the seats many, and everyone's having a good time. And it's, that energy of providership. It's also this energy that is connected to something greater than self. It has a spiritual practice that, whether that's God, the universe, higher self, angels and guides, whatever it is, where there's something practice, where the wisdom of the elders moves through that human.
I love the amalgamation of all of those archetypes and how they all fail to be fully fulfilled without the others being attended to. Like, I love your description of the king at the end of describing all the others, because we can really see now how that king energy, when he's in his, fullest, highest, truest self, is giving from a place of calm and contentment, and also gaining from a place of calm and contentment, not from like fear and grasping and reaching.
Yes. Yeah, and there's so many movies that depict the unintegrated king energy, the narcissist king who's just, it almost makes me think of, Star Wars as one of them, or Jabba the Hutt, and everyone's just coming and feeding him grapes and fanning him, and it's like, but no one around him's having a good time.
Right.
It's like, ugh. That's the unintegrated king energy, where it's like wanting to be better than, and wanting to prove something and wanting to get more power. But it's like the integrated king who has that lover online, who's done the magician work, who is taking responsibility and accountability for his life and how he impacts. Oh, that's just, everyone feels good when that king's online. Everyone wins. Everyone gets to like share and celebrate the gold of what that king offers, but then also he's so filled up by having it received and reciprocated. And yeah, like, everything I've created, you using it helps me feel so good. And it's, where there's just like that's a healthy home.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm sure you resonate too with the magician part. As you were saying that, I'm thinking, oh, that's, the part of the work that both you and I do, respectively, looking at how we kind of help the client tap into their inner magician to transmute whatever's stuck inside them and move into a higher version of themselves. And that word transmute, as I say it, I wanted to draw attention to how, so Mike a year ago told me about something called the gene keys, which is something I would recommend everyone check out because it's super interesting. And transmutation was a word that I learned from the gene keys. We hear transformation, but transmutation was a whole other level of like, it's not that we're turning into something else entirely. We're actually tapping into what we already have within us and using this kind of like chemical change to evolve into this greater version, which now ties into that, evolutionary title in your work.
Yeah. And yeah, this is where we resonate so deeply in the medium of work that we do with our clients is helping people connect to that energy and go through the process of what's required for it to happen. Like transmutation requires right ingredients, requires a safe environment, an attuned environment for that process to happen. And I'd say that is, when I look at it, I had one client specifically say it when I described these 4 archetypes. Oh yeah, magician. Like I don't know that area at all. It's like, yeah, that's why you're here. Like, great, let's do this. And I'd say, for you and I, that's generally probably why people are coming to us is, and I really know this from, the connection that we've built and just from things that you've shared is you do change and transform. You do transmute what's inside, the patterns that aren't serving or evolved. Like you evolve them. You go and get help and support. You do your own work. This is where I always gain new soul family members. Like, yeah, you do that too. Great. Let's do this together. Let's be allies in this process of transmutation because this is the process of awakening, to make it actually tangible. There's in the spiritual world, it can be like, we're awakening. And it's this like kind of cryptic thing. Like what's awakening?
Yeah.
But
like this airy fairy thing.
yeah, exactly. And what can happen is if it's disconnected from like magician energy or the deeper actual healing of trauma that's stored in the body, it can lead to spiritual egos and creating a lot of harm. Like, I'm more evolved than you. No,
Totally.
we're all just have different gifts and qualities. And this process of transmutation, I find, is, wow, life is always going to give me another layer of the onion to look at and to integrate. Like I'm going to look at this place. Wow, okay, something's starting to happen in my life where my relationships are feeling a little wobbly, or I don't feel so good in myself, or why am I struggling to make more money here? And we take that layer of the onion and we get curious about it. We go into magician energy and we start to unpack what's in there. And then awaken, this is the awakening part, is when we mature and integrate that piece that's unevolved. When we evolve it and we mature it, it becomes more capacity in the nervous system. It becomes traits of us that were forgotten come back online. And so it's actually where we're just becoming more of ourselves that's been forgotten.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. I just want to say too, I love how you're using the language of coming back online. Like I like that because it's so relevant to, modern day, like being online and getting these different parts of us back online. I just like that language. It's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for pointing that out. It's like, God, when that computer's got the bugs and it's like, for Macs anyways, that little rainbow window, no one loves
it's just
seeing
like
that.
turning. Yeah, we're just like waiting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like a lack of magician energy leads to that, just ends up being a lived experience. It's like, what gets invoked there? It's frustrating. It's infuriating, and more anger is online. It's like, oh, it's defeating. There's no point. But like when there's a system that's running well, it feels so good to use that device. We're the same. It's like when we come back fully online and our nervous system's doing what it's meant to. We're not like living from our amygdala, which is that survival part. We're more in our prefrontal cortex, that part that's safe, secure, executive function. Like that's where life gets really enjoyable. That's where life is satisfying. This is where we get to live from this place of, oh, more life, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's this excitement. And I think when it's actually embodied, it can be difficult to explain. And that's where I like how when you reference, these 4 different parts of an individual, that can make it easier to understand, as opposed to like what you're saying, this kind of cryptic, healed, evolved version of someone. It's like, well, let's actually break it down and look at how could they get there. And that kind of leads me into my last question I'll ask you today, Mike, to wrap up is, I see you have a very close relationship with your son. How old is he also?
Yeah, his birthday is Valentine's Day, so he's just over 3 now.
I wanted to ask you, what practices would you encourage parents or future parents to adopt so they can help raise men who are more emotionally vulnerable and confident in that sense?
Both parents?
Both parents.
Yeah. Oh, we could do a whole episode on that. I'm so passionate about that piece. But I'd say the piece that I'll highlight is, if you aren't already supported in your life, go get support. Go get support. Go find a place where you feel safe to expose parts of you that you may not even realize are driving the bus in like your behaviors, and like men's circle, women's circle. There's so many different kind of groups out there, online communities. Go see a therapist, get a coach, like get to know the deeper parts. If you aren't already doing that, would be the first piece. It would be doing your own personal work so that you do have more of your adult online to emotionally attune to what your kids need. Our role as the parent is to be attuned. It is the most sacrificial role. It's a very selfless role. Is our responsibility to attune to what's happening for them in their world and build them out in an environment of safety and providership, so that their God-given gifts can just stay online and continually emerge and evolve and grow. And if they do that, they're not going to be at grade 12 trying to figure out what they should do. They will know with every cell of their being that they're on the path of doing what they're here to do, because they've been nurtured in the environment to do it. And that's our role. That's our responsibility. Kids are not a problem or a nuisance. If you can't hold it, go get help. And so that you can hold it in a way where it feels really enjoyable. Like if we're me as a father, when I'm held and supported and we have different nervous systems and people in the field, it's the most enjoyable experience to parent these little humans that are, they are here to really help the evolution for humanity. And so much just I'm kind of going on a tangent here, but the piece just to break the conditioning around this of like the younger generation, we rely on them. They are what we're hoping, will turn things around for humanity, and it's all up to them. That is actually not right order. That is creating what's called the parentified child. It's our responsibility in the generation that we're in the role of parents. Like, we're the adults right now. It's our responsibility to create the environment for them to just naturally emerge that they're meant to. And then, that will be supportive to humanity, but it's not all on them. It's actually all on us as the adult. And so to do that work and to get really curious, what is the, and this is the spiritual side of it, but it's so important. What is the uniqueness of the soul of my child And how do I get to know it so that they can really feel welcome here? And this is where
Mhm.
gene keys can be really helpful also.
Mhm.
Highly encourage anyone curious and drawn, go download your child's gene keys chart, and
Mm.
don't know how to read it, get someone to do a reading, and really get to know your child and the uniqueness that they are, so that they can
Mhm.
really feel seen and heard, and that will develop emotional intelligence.
Mhm. Yeah. To hold space for them by learning to hold space for yourself first as a parent, right? The same that you've been explaining with partnership, right? Looking at your relationship with your child as a different type of partnership. And we can't be there for them if we're not there for ourselves first.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And deeply get to know what an attachment system actually needs,
Mhm.
because it's actually surprising how much they actually require to keep the part online of hold me tight. There's been a
Mm.
book called Hold Me Tight, and there's all these
Yeah.
books out there. Go educate, get to know. Our kids aren't meant to be pushed away and told to grow up. If we hold them really tight and let them come in and get the connection and get the cuddles and get the softness, like that lover energy, they will naturally hit the places where they will start to move away and they will start to let go more. But it's not pushing them into that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's reminding me, actually, just I started reading The Biology of Belief by Bruce Lipton just yesterday, and highly recommend to everyone. And he talks about how there's this misconception with evolution that it's survival of the fittest, and that it's, we need to always be struggling for survival. He says rather than struggling for survival, there's also a snuggle for survival. But it's so true. Like there's an innate need to have that quote unquote snuggle, to be working in connection, in collaboration, in cooperation. It's not just this struggle, survival of the fittest, you're alone in this world. It really is about the snuggle, the connection.
Yeah. And I'd say, whether they're aware of it or not, I'd say all of our clients, a part of them is looking for that, like the felt
Totally.
sense of being safe and, snuggled energetically,
Yeah.
emotionally, so that they can actually integrate as a full human being.
Right.
We need it. That our attachment system needs it. And as adults, it can be scary to accept that we do need that and move
Mhm.
towards the actual process of learning how to be snuggled, so we can
Mhm.
snuggle those parts of ourselves, and then, yeah, be more independent. But there's right order. We need to be snuggled to feel safe and integrate.
100%. Playing devil's advocate here for a second, what would you say to the parent that's listening saying, "Yeah, but I don't wanna coddle my child?" What would you say
Oh,
to someone who's confusing snuggling, connection, collaboration, nurturing with coddling?
yeah. Great question. Even just the language of coddling, I just want to say, has separation written all over it.
Mhm.
If there is even a belief of coddling, that person, and this might be triggering, is generally the untold story that your own nervous system is saying you didn't get nurtured and cared for in the way that you
Mm.
needed. Like where
Mhm.
you didn't get held, you didn't get the skin to skin contact, the breastfeeding for the amount of time that you needed. And, when you hurt your knee, like picked up and scooped up until you met through your process and you're ready to run out. It's the coddling, really. I'd say, and I know this, and I'm owning this. I've had the actual belief of like, we don't want to spoil our son or coddle him.
Right.
And guess what? I go and I get cuddled. And then some young part of me integrates. I'm like, oh my God. Oh, Cedar, he needs my cuddles. He needs because
Yeah.
I'll feel like, oh, right. I'm projecting onto him the part of me that I didn't get.
Mhm.
I wasn't allowed to be tender and soft and then scooped up. And so now I'm projecting like, we can't just do everything he needs. But there's places where, yes, boundaries are necessary, but coddling really almost shouldn't even belong in the language of raising a human being. They need to
Mhm.
be nurtured. They need to be cared for. And if it feels like coddling, there might be something where that's actually mirroring back. What's something I'm triggered by and having a hard time with, and I'm not able to be the like adult to be the boundary and be the bank for my child. Like if I think or someone thinks I'm coddling, like something's not integrated here. Like there's just to name it too. It's not just the dysfunction of like coddling, but it's saying separations in the field. What's incoherent? What ingredient is missing here for it to feel, yeah, like this is all healthy. This is all appropriate. What's happening? And it's usually like, oh, is dad not super present? Is mom got stuff coming up from when she was, a little girl? Like what's missing? Is there not enough resource in the field? Or, that can lead to this projection of like, oh, you're coddling them. It's like, no, somewhere connection's missing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like how you're saying the distinction between that coddling and nurturing is really being that bank and being able to guide and direct and nurture and use the word boundary. That's so important. So, if there are no boundaries and maybe there is this kind of giving without any type of lesson involved, then now you're doing your child a disservice, right? But the nurturing involves being that bank, right? So this is making me think of what you were saying about in relationships. Like if a partner is worried about coddling their partner, then just look at, well, how are you choosing to hold space for them? Because you can coddle them if you want, or you can actually nurture them.
Yeah, like where I feel coddling belongs is more in the adult world, where there's a mechanism of enabling unintegrated, unevolved, immature qualities. I'd say that's where coddling actually belongs. It's like where there's a partnership, and I'll just use my own expression here. Like in my previous marriage, I'd say there's a place I was coddled. Like my imprint, my unconscious little boy driving the bus said, coddle me. And where I was enabled and not called out. And so that leads to dysfunction for everyone.
Right.
Yeah. We're not meant to coddle our partners. We're meant to like nurture and care and get to know what their attachment system needs. And the more we do that, we feel safer and we integrate. And yes, we do our own personal work and bring the sweetness of that to the relationship. But for children, it's nurturing, it's caring, it's guiding their energy, it's protecting their energy.
Yeah, and trying to stop that pattern of intergenerational trauma by what you're saying, doing the work as parents and as partners.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you so much, Mike, for sharing all your wisdom with us today. I love how this conversation took us in so many different directions.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Such an enjoyable conversation.
Thank you so much for listening. If you're enjoying the podcast, I invite you to participate in a Growth Zone challenge. I invite you to take a moment, a second, a gap in your day right now and share this episode with 2 other people. Thank you for minding the gaps with me. I'll see you next time on the journey out of our comfort zones and into our growth zones.